Okay, with the current global pandemic and the current crisis, will European football be forced to reintroduce salary caps? Now, in the 60s, there was a cap on player wages. There wasn't a salary cap as such because some players will earn a lot less than the upper limit, but there was an upper limit cap on wages that Jimmy Hill, who was the former Coventry City manager back in the 60s, argued against. He said it economically hamstrung players from earning as much as they could. They could earn more, and he argued successfully for the removal of the upper limit on player wages. They weren't getting paid a lot at the time. And from the 60s to the early 90s, that economically actually made sense. It actually made sense to get rid of this upper cap on earnings. And it all was going well. Then the TV money starts coming in the early 90s, and that changes the economic picture as it changed the transfer market also. So since 1992, 1993, football has changed dramatically in my lifetime. Transfer fees now are stupid. Player wages are overinflated, and this is part of the problem that football's facing. While the TV money's coming in, they can afford to spend what they want. But if that is the case, why are big clubs in the top divisions continually having financial problems? So I could use Valencia as an example. When times were good in La Liga, Valencia, prime example. We could talk about Portsmouth in the Premier League back in the day, which is now in a lower league position, but Portsmouth wins an FA Cup, wins silverware, and financially melts down. So even when times were good, clubs were struggling. And we've obviously had Alexander Serafin, when he took over UEFA, admit financial fair play. It doesn't work. When you've got the head of an organisation, a governing body, saying one of our key rules doesn't work, it is flawed, we need to change it, but then no action happens, again when times are good, when times go bad, like now, there's more pressure than ever to bring in some form of spending cap or salary cap or expenditure cap that is fixed. And there are no loopholes, because what we have at the moment doesn't work. Clubs regularly flout financial fair play. Very few clubs are actually getting punished for it, as we've seen. And the debate between player wages and the clubs and enforcing salary reductions or wage deferrals is not really helping either side with the public reaction. And in the short to medium long term, fan salaries, so people like you and me who go watch sport, who go to games, we're going to have tighter budgets because our governments are going to have to tax us to recoup the money of their retained salary schemes, for example, and furlough schemes that they put in place to protect jobs and protect people's incomes. So it's going to mean a raise in taxes. And we are going to see some kind of economic downturn post-crisis. We will. It's a logical outcome. It's highly unlikely that the economies will just suddenly bounce back by 35-40% on the last 3 months where it's been basically shut down. And football is an industry that's going to have to reform itself. When you've got clubs like Barcelona, one of the biggest clubs for global fan base, in financial meltdown right now, absolute financial meltdown, it's a warning sign that all is not well. When you have clubs across Europe on the brink of going bust, and leagues as well, it does raise the point that, yeah, we do need some kind of wage salary cap. Other leagues have argued on the economic side, we're losing too much money, wages are out of control, we need to control this so we can control expenditure and therefore give cost certainty. And I could use Bury as an example in the Football League going bust. It doesn't matter what level of the professional game you're at. If all was well with this TV money, clubs wouldn't be going bust. Clubs are living beyond their means as well, because there's only actually a very few clubs that actually are healthy financially because they have very, very good sponsorship deals. Manchester United being one, Bayern Munich being another one that have got very, very good corporate deals that, even with no football being taking place, they are still making money. Other clubs in the same divisions facing financial meltdown. And not all clubs own their stadiums either. They're paying leases on them. West Ham is a prime example of a club that doesn't own its stadium. They're paying a lease on it. So it is a very interesting time. But UEFA have admitted financial fair play doesn't work, and that's sort of like a funding cap in a sense. But it's so badly enforced and so many loopholes in it that it's regularly breached. And for the most part, without punishment, very few clubs get punished when they breach financial fair play. Very, very few. AC Milan and Man City notwithstanding, very few clubs have been pulled up by UEFA and the domestic leagues and slapped with fines, slapped with punishments. Very, very few. And what we are seeing right now is a bigger argument than ever to control salaries. But at the same time, we also need to look at transfers as well and how they're structured. And that's another debate on another separate video, but you have to look at it. Hypothetically, let's use Neymar's transfer from Barcelona to PSG. PSG are still paying instalments on that transfer to Barcelona. He's been a PSG player for 3 years. PSG haven't paid off that transfer fee yet. So a lot of people don't realise that, some transfers, they're paid off straight away, a couple of million, it's done. One club pays the other club, and it's all well and good. Bigger transfers, or those transfers with add-on clauses where a previous club also gets money because they developed the player, and there was a clause in the transfer saying that if he's sold on again, we get a percentage of the transfer fee, or if he win so many trophies with this club, we get a percentage as a bonus on top of that. They need to reform the transfer market, and they definitely need to look at player wages because that's where the main expenditure for clubs is. And as we've seen, the transfer market is causing clubs financial headaches because they've got all these outstanding transfer payments, and players are arguing, well, why should we have to give up our wages when we could defer them, when clubs want to enforce pay cuts because the clubs are claiming they're losing tens of millions of pounds, euros and dollars. So it's an interesting one. There's a lot of bits floating around, and I could do a separate video on why football is struggling with this current crisis, and a lot of it's to do with debt. A lot of clubs operate with debt as well. So it's all up in the air, and in the long term, average fans are not going to have as much money to spend because governments are going to have to raise their taxes or take more out of every pound or every euro that a person earns and take an extra couple of cents or couple of pennies in income tax to offset the furlough schemes that are in place to protect jobs and protect wages. So taxes will go up, and people's salaries won't go as far. Plain and simple. People's salaries will not go as far. And it's remarkable that football in the last decade or so has made rampant profits. And players have had their wages go up and up and up and up, and the transfer market's gone through the roof. When the average fan has seen their salaries squeezed and their living standards squeezed throughout this entire period. So it's an interesting topic, a lot to discuss. I want to hear your thoughts on it. I'll be very interested to see what the feedback is. But anyway, thank you very much for watching. Please place your thoughts below in the comment section. And if you like what you see, please also drop a like and a subscribe. All support is greatly appreciated. And also, please stay safe out there, and I'll have some more videos for you very, very soon.